Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Shauna-Kaye Brown, and welcome to another edition of Monday Mindset Motivation. So today we're talking about your memory and why relying on your memory alone may not be in your best interest at all times. Now, I do understand that there are some moments when you are not able to write things down, whether it is because you're not properly equipped with your pen and paper, or you don't have an electronic device near you that you can use to record information. There are times when you really have no other option but to rely on your memory. I get that. But what I'm saying is that learning from past experiences, it is in your best interest to try as best as possible not to rely solely on your memory, but to consider writing things down. Some of the greatest ideas that we get them at the most inconvenient times, meaning that you may be on the bus or on the train riding somewhere, and then all of a sudden you just have this epiphany. And guess what? You have nothing to write it down. And now you have to try to remember it. And you've seen in the past how much that can fail you. So my suggestion to you today is try to equip yourself at all times with some sort of writing material so that when you get those great ideas, when you get that information that you know you're going to be relying on later, you can record it because it will be in your best interest to do so. I am not at all discounting the importance of memorizing things. We do it for examinations. We do it just for everyday communication between our friends and our colleagues. But what I'm saying is that don't just rely on your memory as a sole means by which to remember the significant details that you need to use in your life and in your dreams and in building your platform. You need to have a backup plan, and that is why I encourage things like journaling. For me personally, journaling has proven to be such an immense assistance to me, such an immense aid when I try to get back certain information that I learned at a point in time, or certain great ideas that I had that I couldn't necessarily go into my memory bank and retrieve it just like that. Because every single day you're learning so many things, and your memory is filtering the things that it deems less important. And those things might be important for a particular phenomenon that you're dealing with. So writing down really helps a lot. And for those people who journal, they know what I'm talking about. Because when you journal, you can capture timelines, you can capture certain moments that you want to preserve. And I believe that one of the legacies that you can leave for your children and for your children's children is your life that they can see through your journal. Don't always take it for granted that your memory will always be intact. And as we know, death is inevitable. So when you have passed through this dimension, your journals will be there to capture the essence of what obtained while you were alive. So that is why I am saying today, ladies and gentlemen, that it is important for you to write things down. So today I want to share 4 main reasons why I think it is necessary for you to not just rely on your memory, but to supplement that with writing things down. And the first thing that I want to suggest to you is the fact that neuroscientists have found that you remember about 50% of what you learn within an hour of learning it. When you're in a classroom setting, you have those 1 or 2 hour lectures. You are often told that they try to do things a little differently because their attention span is such that after the first 20 minutes, you don't focus as much as you would have in the initial part of the lecture. And that is why people encourage things like note-taking or some sort of recording, utilizing some sort of recording device so as to ensure that you capture as much of the information as possible. There's a reason for that. The reason is because you tend to tune out some of what you learn in the latter part of the lecture. Unless you record it in some reliable way, your memory alone will not suffice when it comes time for you to do the exam or to write that paper. And that is why, again, I am reinforcing the importance of not just relying on your memory, but also to supplement that with writing things on however you prefer. Now in the 21st century, we have electronic devices, phones, tablets, computers, whatever it is. You can even speak into your phone and it will record the information, and that's amazing, that's convenient. But what I'm saying is try to have some means by which to record information, and try not to use scraps of paper, because one of the things that happen with scraps of paper, there are 2 things mainly. One, either you're going to put them in some drawer when you get home or you get to your office and you forget about them, or you are going to put them in the garbage. And sometimes it's such useful information, but because they wind up amongst the other scraps, you figure they're garbage. But if you have a journal or a set of journals that you dedicate for the purpose of writing down important information, then you're going to keep those safe and make them small. You have pocket journals now. Some people may think those are too small. For ladies, we carry around these big pocket books. So normal 8.5 by 5.5 is a good size for you to use as a journal. For me, I do bullet journaling, so I have my journal and my daily to-do list and everything all in one, and that's convenient for me. But whatever works for you, just find a way to record the information, because that information is going to become very useful to you in the future, and that's one of the best ways to do it. And of course, that's not just by itself, but that's to supplement the memory. The other point I want to make is the fact that your subconscious mind tends to operate in such a way that it has a tendency to protect you from trauma and from pain. So sometimes you experience some really traumatic events, and it is protecting you. That's what your subconscious mind is there for. It is protecting you. So it suppresses that particular traumatic experience that you have had. And in the future, when you're supposed to retell that story or recount it, you're not able to do so because it is suppressed. And I understand that even in trying to capture that information on paper, it might be difficult just because it is suppressed. But depending on how it works, there are instances of trauma where you remember it in the right after it happens. And so if you record it that time, later on when you start to relive it and you hate that, so your subconscious mind starts to suppress it, you're going to need that information. Because you wrote it down, you can now go back and retrieve it from where you have written it down. And so I could use the analogy of a courtroom setting. You know, as a lawyer, I know that sometimes you're in court and there's certain information that's just pertinent to building up the evidence for the case. And in the absence of proper memory, sometimes an innocent person could easily be convicted because the witnesses, the critical witnesses, do not remember the information in the effective way that they would help the case of the person, even though the person was innocent. So again, it shows you the importance of recording information. And that is why you have people submitting affidavits, because they're giving their version of the information to help to supplement that evidence that will be presented for your case. So again, you see whereby it is so important for you to record information. A lot of lawyers tend to be averse to the idea of becoming paper pushers, meaning that you're documenting everything. But in law and in many other fields, you find that documentation is one of the key ways to retrieve and retain information. And that memory alone will not fly. And again, I can attest to the exam scenario. You have some students, they're extremely smart, and I understand that some people have photographic memories, so they can come to class, they won't write anything down, and they'll remember everything for the exam in a relatively short period of time, like a semester, and they'll go to the exam and they'll do well. But ladies and gentlemen, let's be real, that does not account for the majority. A lot of people cannot do that. For me, I know that when I was in school, I had to attend all my classes, or as many of them as possible. And if I was not able to attend, I had reliable friends who were like me in that sense, and I would be able to get notes from them. But it was never the same as when I attended classes for myself and took my notes, because I knew that I needed to go over those notes so as to cement that information. Had I just gone to the class and just sat there and listened to what was being said, I would be relying only on my memory, and I can assure you that would not have been sufficient for me to do well on my exams. I'm not saying that writing down solves your problems automatically, because when you write them down, you still have to go over the information. But what I'm saying is that in writing them down, it gives you something to go back to, gives you something to consult when your memory starts failing you, or when you have that momentary lapse at the opportune time and you need that information. You can consult your notes, and that could save the day for you. The third point that I want to make is that memory in and of itself is a reconstructive process, and it is susceptible to distortion. So essentially, something happens, you have an experience, and what you find is that later on when you're recounting it, let's say 3 people experience or witness a crash. And later on, they're put in 3 different rooms, rooms A, B, and C. And they're asked the same series of questions as to what transpired at the scene. And they were there from the beginning, and they witnessed it. Chances are, when those persons begin to say what happened, they're all going to give slightly different recount of the story or of the occurrence. Now, that could even happen when you write it down as well. But one of the things that you find is that in writing things down, they tend to become more sequential, and you're writing down step by step based on what you remember at that time. And in trying to write down so soon after the event, the chances are you will remember more than if you had waited a week or two after the occurrence. So that's one of the other reasons why it is so important for you to make sure that as best as possible, you record pertinent information. The fourth and final point that I want to make is that there is a distinction between what obtains in reality and perception. Now, people tend to take it for granted that your memory works much like a video recorder, so that when something happens, it's just going to record it in sequence and you're going to remember it for your convenience. Newsflash, that is not the case. Actually, the perception and reality are almost diametrically opposed in some cases. What obtains in reality is so different that you may experience something and take it for granted that you're going to remember, and later on when you decide to retrieve that information for whatever reason, it's so sketchy, you just cannot remember it. And I alluded to the case of the legal setting. For example, you're in court and you're a key witness and you're being asked certain questions that you know within yourself that you should know the answer to, and for some reason you're just drawing blanks. You cannot remember anything, and that is because you did not record the information, you did not record the critical details that will be needed at the moment. And so when you're ready to retrieve that information, your memory fails you, and that could land you in some hot water. So ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to quickly share why it is that I think it is not sufficient for you to rely on your memory alone, but for you to supplement that with documentation. And especially for people like myself who are always generating new ideas, and that's almost everybody anyway. I'm not trying to single myself out, but you know, you're generating new ideas, you're having all these breakthrough moments, you're having all these subconscious downloads, and you want to be able to write things down. Because if you're someone, you're a writer, you're an author, you have great ideas at some really odd times. Like I said, in transit, you know, just over lunch, while meditating. You need to have a writing pad and a pen near you so that you can capture those ideas. And like I said earlier, journaling is one of the most effective ways that I have found I've been able to record information and keep things in sequence. So I hope you get some value from that. Of course, if there is any other suggestion that you have, feel free to share in the comment section below and I will address them accordingly. For those who are just joining, this is a short presentation. So I would suggest that if you're so inclined that you go back and you watch it from the beginning. I was just talking to you guys about the importance of not just relying on your memory, as important as that is, but to supplement that with recording information by writing it down, whether you're capturing it in a journal with a pen and paper, or you're writing it down on your electronic devices, namely your computer, your tablet, or in your phone. Just find another way to record that information so that you can have more details and you can have a source to go back to. And that, to go a little bit further beyond that, when you depart this dimension, when you're children, or if God forbid you should lose your memory as you get older, there is something that someone can draw on to sort of put the pieces together, that your children and your grandchildren can look at to sort of see how you lived your life. You know, what are the experiences that you had while growing up. The same way how we try to capture moments in pictures is the same way how you should try to capture your ideas and your thoughts on paper. And that will be one of the best ways to supplement your memory. So just by way of recapping, guys, I just went over 4 points briefly, and the first one is that neuroscientists have found that we remember 50% of approximately 50% of what we learn within an hour of learning it, and so it is important for us to record information. And the second point that I made was that your subconscious mind tends to protect you from pain and from trauma, and so because it is suppressing the traumatic experiences, because it's protecting you not to let those things affect you in a negative way, you may wind up forgetting important information that could be detrimental in certain situations, such as in the courtroom. The third point that I spoke about was the fact that memory in and of itself is a reconstructive process, and as such it is susceptible to distortion. So you cannot rely on your memory alone, which often changes things somewhat to sort of spit it back out through a different set of lenses. And the final point that I made is that there is a distinction between perception and reality. Oftentimes what you experience and or rather how you perceive the experience is very different from the actual experience. So perception and reality are sometimes diametrically opposed, which is why, again, it is so important for you to capture the information or the particular experience that you have had. I hope you were able to get some value out of what was shared today, ladies and gentlemen. But you know, I cannot leave without telling you guys, or rather reminding you guys, that the anthology is coming out in 8 days. Yes, you heard me right. We have a date for publication, and that is August 8th. An event was created, and you guys may have seen it. I will share it again sometime during the course of the day. It's a virtual event. You're all invited to sort of see how the day is progressing. I am praying that we will get to bestseller status on launch date, and that is the view of everyone who have contributed to the anthology. So on August 8th, we will have everyone gathering, everyone convening in that group, and we will be celebrating. And we invite you guys to celebrate with us. This is one of the most cataclysmic books of the 21st century. That's what I believe. It is a book in which 36 authors, entrepreneurs, and coaches are coming together to tell their stories, powerful stories of overcoming adversity, of resilience. And I believe that it is just amazing to find 36 powerful stories in one place. And guys, you're not going to be able to beat this price. The price that you're going to be paying on launch day, you just have to opt in for the event to see the price. It is unbelievable and it is unbeatable. Now, on launch date, I must tell you that the book will only be available in Kindle format, not print format. That will come a few weeks later, but it will be available in Kindle format. But don't get worried or anything. You don't have to have an actual Kindle to be able to be privy to that book. What you can do is that you can download the Kindle app on your computer or on your smartphone, whether it is an iPhone or an Android. And that will be sufficient. I have the Kindle app on all my devices, and I also have a Kindle. So I know that I'll be able to read those stories wherever I am on the go. And the same is true for you. So you don't have to have an actual Kindle to be able to purchase Kindle books. I'm sure I'm telling you what you already know, but just for those persons who might be wondering whether or not you will need an actual Kindle, no. You can download the Kindle app on your cell phone or on your computer. So again, the book, the anthology, it will be available on August 8th. And it is called Courageous World Catalysts, and it is a book in which 36 authors, entrepreneurs, and coaches are sharing their stories of overcoming adversity and sharing their whys as to why it is that they're doing what they're doing. The aim is that we want everyone to live as best a life as possible. Self-help is not a fallacy. It is very real. It has helped me and it can help you. It is about igniting that motivated spirit within you, because I cannot motivate you. Motivation comes from within. So you have the ability to be motivated, but I can help you to sort of speed up that process, or to awaken the giant that is within you, as Tony Robbins speak of. So ladies and gentlemen, I really hope that you guys will be inclined to purchase the book on launch date, which is August 8th. I will be sharing throughout the rest of the week, and I thank you guys so much for your support. And I thank you guys for continually joining me every week for the Monday Mindset Motivation. I wish for you all a great week. Make sure you write down your plan for the rest of the week. I guarantee that when you write things down, your results will be way better than when you just sort of wing it or sort of just go along with the process, because things that are important to you today, right now, because you don't write them down tomorrow or Wednesday, you might forget them because other things step into their places and are deemed more important at those times. So it's very important for you to write things down, not just for the purpose of supplementing your memory, but just to give your life some sort of structure and to allow you to get more out of your day. Jim Rohn says that you should not start your day until you've finished it. You should not start your week until you've finished it. And you should not start the month until you've finished it. And of course, he goes on to say, you shouldn't start the year until you've finished it. What does he mean by that? Clearly, you cannot finish it before you start it. But what he means is you should finish a plan for these time periods, whether it is a day, the week, the month, or the year. Plan it out as best as possible, and then you can get started. I guarantee that you will be able to optimize on your day, your week, your month, and your year. So thanks again for joining me for today's motivation. And for those who are just coming on, please go back and watch from the beginning. I shared some really good insights about supplementing your memory, recording things, writing things down in your journal. Thank you all for joining. You can subscribe to my website at www.shaunaklbrown.com. Until next time, have yourselves a great week, and thank you so much.